Welcome to the Deep Dive. We're the show that takes the sources you provide, cracks them open, and, well, we dive deep to pull out the most interesting insights just for you.
That's right. And today, our source is a short story, a really compelling one called Route 66.
It's by the award-winning author Chris Stone, and it's actually part of a bigger collection called Dark Passages. I believe you can find that as an ebook on Amazon right now if you're interested.
Yeah, it's definitely worth checking out. And this story, Route 66, it sounds like maybe just a road trip story on the surface, but it goes much, much deeper than that.
Oh, absolutely. So our mission today for you is to journey through this narrative. We're going to unpack the key moments, try to get inside the characters' heads, understand their really difficult pasts.
Really difficult.
And explore the tensions, the themes that Stone is weaving through this whole thing, basically giving you a shortcut to understanding what makes the story tick.
And Stone, he doesn't exactly ease you into it, does he? He just drops you. Bam! Right onto a bathroom floor.
Yeah, it's immediate, thick with tension, mystery. You've got this bruised arm, bloody water swirling in the tub, and the narrator is just caught between feeling sick and desperately wanting to run.
It's such a visceral opening. You're immediately thinking, okay, how did we get here? Who are these people? What's with the blood, the scratches, that tattoo he mentions, the flickering light? It just grabs you.
It totally hooks you. You have to keep reading. So figure out that bathroom floor scene. We need to rewind a bit.
Exactly.
Yeah.
We need to go back to the beginning of their journey together, back to Route 66 near Vega, Texas. That's where Rainn, our narrator, picks up a hitchhiker. And, well, this meeting really sets everything else in motion.
Okay, tell us about this hitchhiker, because she sounds memorable, to say the least.
Oh, she is Moon. That's the name she gives him anyway. And her look is just striking. Black spaghetti-strap sundress, cowboy boots, but crucially, no socks. Wild hair flying in the wind, big dark sunglasses hiding her eyes.
Right, hiding everything. It's a look that screams, I don't know, on the run, but also maybe don't mess with me. Very deliberate.
It's a deliberate mystery, yeah. And she's got this black guitar case she's dragging along.
Which adds another layer, right? She doesn't even look back, just sticks out a thumb.
And her greeting, hey there, cowboy. It's confident, maybe a little provocative.
Definitely. And when Rainn asks what's in the case, her answers are all over the place, completely evasive.
So she's playing games from the start.
Absolutely. She tells him she changes personas sometimes. She's a musician or a secretary, maybe even a taxidermist, whatever fits the situation.
The taxidermist, okay. Why?
Well, she kind of admits two things. One, that people treat her better if they think she's somebody who, has a defined role. But also, she just likes to fuck with people a little. Her words.
Huh. Okay. So it's partly survival, partly mischief?
Exactly. This blend of calculated self-preservation and just enjoying the confusion she creates. It keeps people off balance.
And the guitar case itself, the big reveal.
Yeah, eventually she tells him, no guitar, it's got pasties, high heels, and dildos.
Wow. Okay. Not what I expected. Right. But then she adds, almost as an afterthought, that it's also where she keeps her cash. So the practical is wrapped up in this outrageous performative layer.
It really tells you something about how she operates, doesn't it? Survival wrapped in spectacle.
Yeah.
Creating this persona you just can't quite figure out. Maybe it's a defense mechanism.
Very likely. Keep people at arm's length by constantly shifting. And Rainn, our narrator, he seems to get that pretty quickly. He notes that nothing she says is straight. No answer is direct.
And that frustration, the story hints it triggers something in him, something related to his past. It mentions a Heath-styled reaction.
Yes, and that's our cue to really look at Rainn.
Yeah.
Because his internal world, his past, it's absolutely crucial to everything that happens. Even at that opening bathroom scene, his first instinct is just pure tension, wanting to skedaddle.
So why is he like that? Who is Heath?
Heath was his father. And the picture painted is brutal. There's this quote attributed to Heath, something like, you can complain in one hand and shit in the other, and you just see which one fills up faster.
Oof. Yeah, that tells you a lot. Dismissive. Harsh.
Extremely.
Yeah.
And it wasn't just verbal. Rainn recalls the physical abuse, the need for bandages, casts, hiding shiners. It's visceral. But the trauma in his family runs even deeper, unfortunately. It extends to his mother.
Right. The story about her accident, it's horrific.
It really is. The description of her Honda Civic wrapped around an oak tree, and the medical term they used, internal decapitation. Her neck was broken, severed internally, but the skin held. Just devastating.
And the aftermath for her and for him.
Yeah. She survived, but barely. She had this metal halo screwed directly into her skull for 15 months. Her eyes were left permanently crossed. severe memory loss. She didn't even recognize Rainn consistently. She's kept calling him Herman.
Herman? Who's Herman?
Her cousin. So Rainn, her own son, is basically erased from her immediate memory, replaced by Herman. Imagine the pain of that.
Unbearable. And he had to care for her like that.
He became her halo cleaner. The story describes him having to clean the pus from the wounds where the metal pins entered her skull. It's depicted with such painful, grim detail. It's not just the physical task, it's the emotional weight, the grief, maybe even resentment.
And the thought, maybe, that death might have been kinder.
The story definitely hints at that complexity. And then there's this other layer. This fragmented memory his mother keeps mentioning in her confused state. Something about birds.
Right, the birds. It seems like this weird recurring fragment he can't understand.
Exactly. It becomes this deeply buried family secret that only leaks out because of her brain injury. And years later, when she's actually dying, he finally asks her about it.
He tries to get some clarity, finally.
He hopes for some understanding, yeah.
Yeah.
But the truth that spills out is so much worse than he could have imagined. Thinking he's her cousin Herman, she tells him about being raped in a park by Herman and his friends.
Yeah, oh my God.
And she blames Herman for just standing by, for letting it happen. So Rainn is hit with this double horror, the knowledge of his mother's horrific trauma, and the sickening realization that in her confused mind, he is associated with the accomplice to her assault because she keeps calling him Herman.
That's just shattering. No wonder he gets physically ill.
Completely devastating. It hammers home this theme that some truths maybe are better left buried. And it shows just how deep Rainn's connection to trauma runs his own abuse from Heath, and now carrying this inherited awful secret from his mother.
So the past is absolutely not past for him. It's living inside him.
It's living inside both of them, I think. These traumas shape every interaction, every decision. Which brings us back to Moon because she reveals her own scars, both physical and, you suspect, emotional.
Rainn works up the nerve to ask about the mark on her arm, right? He thought it might be from needles at first.
He does. He tries a kind of weak lead-in question first, a lame-o question, as the text says, but she just cuts through it. She calls him out, forces him to ask directly about the arm. It's one of those moments where her bluntness forces the issue.
And the answer isn't drugs.
No, she's emphatic.
What?
Not drugs. She calls it an entry wound from a metal pokey stick.
A metal pokey stick. And how did she get it?
The story she tells is, again, brutal. She implies it was from a man, someone who wanted a little more than you are willing to give. And she adds pointedly that she has scars to prove it.
So an assault.
Seems likely. And the details she gives, they're grim. Cauterizing the wound herself with a car's cigarette lighter to stop the bleeding.
Wow, the sheer desperation in that image.
Right. And then her friend, Crystal, pulling the stick out later, Moon describes the blood spraying like a fucking fountain. And then she makes this really bizarre, disturbing comparison to the Bellagio water show in Vegas.
That's incredibly dark. Describing horrific violence with this weirdly detached, almost ascetic language.
It is. It really lands that line about having the scars to prove she won't give everything someone demands. But then, she does that Moon thing.
What's that?
She ends this horrifying story with a playful, unsettling wink and throws out there, maybe it was just a needle mark after all. Like maybe none of that was true.
So even in revealing vulnerability, she keeps you guessing, pulls the rug out from under you?
Exactly. Is it real? Is it performance? Is the performance part of the reality of surviving trauma? It keeps her enigmatic. So these two characters, Rainn and Moon, each carrying these immense weights of trauma and secrets, they end up pulling into the Blue Oasis Inn.
And this motel? It sounds like it's practically decaying on the spot.
Oh, it totally is.
Thanks.
The sign proclaims, your oasis in the desert, but it's anything but. It's described as kitschy, faded, falling apart, that burned-out neon O in Oasis, the rust stains, duct tape holding furniture together.
It feels symbolic, like it mirrors their own states.
Absolutely. They're looking for refuge, but the refuge itself is crumbling. Can't really offer escape.
Yeah.
And then there's the manager, Junior.
Ugh, Junior. He sounds like trouble immediately. The description, that aggressive T-shirt.
And the try burning this flag shirt, yeah. He's instantly suspicious, menacing. And he makes that demand for Moon to come back later for him.
And Rainn reacts.
He does. Despite clearly being scared himself, something protective flares up. He slams his fists, defends her. It's an interesting moment.
But Moon handles it differently.
She does. Pure pragmatic deflection. She tells Rainn later, sometimes it's just easier to let people think what they want, avoid the confrontation, play along just enough to get by. It's clearly a survival skill she's honed.
But they can't avoid confrontation for long at the Blue Oasis, can they?
No. Because while Rainn is trying to rest, trying to process everything, he starts hearing things from the room next door. Room 100.
What does he hear?
Yelling, bangs, the sound of glass shattering. A man's voice, furious, calling the woman in there a whore. And then the woman sounds sobbing, gasping for breath.
Oh no, this is where Rainn's past comes crashing back in, isn't it?
Violently. The text is explicit. He recognizes this, the sounds, the pattern of use. He thinks, quote, he'd lived this already. It's the dynamic between Heath and his mother playing out right next door.
So what does he do? His first instinct must be shaped by that past.
It is. His initial reaction, learned from childhood, is to freeze, to retreat, wait it out. He believes intervening with Heath only ever made things worse, so he tries to just endure it.
But something changes his mind.
Yes. He hears the woman choking. That gurgling sound that got him moving. That specific sound breaks through his conditioning. It overrides the ingrained fear, the instinct to just survive by staying hidden. Maybe it's the echo of his own mother's suffering. Maybe just the raw horror of that sound. But he has to act.
So he goes next door, confronts the guy, Hank.
He tries to talk him down, reason with him, but Hank is enraged, aggressive. It escalates immediately.
And the confrontation moves inside the room.
Yeah. Rainn ends up kicking the door and actually loses his duct-taped boot doing it, which becomes a detail later. Hank stumbles, and he has a gun. The gun goes off in the stumble. Then there's a struggle. A physical fight for the gun amidst the chaos, the broken glass, the fear. And then more gunshots.
And the outcome.
Both Hank and the woman end up dead. The story leaves a tiny bit of ambiguity about the exact sequence, who shot whom in those final moments, but the result is brutal and final. 2 bodies on the floor.
And Moon arrives right then.
She walks in right at the aftermath.
Yeah.
And her reaction just sums it all up. What in the actual fuck? She walks into this scene of utter carnage.
There's no time to explain, is there? They have to get out.
Immediately. Moon yells, no time. They know Junior heard the shots. He'll call the cops. It's instant flight mode.
Back in the car, the weight of what just happened must be immense.
Totally. And Moon asks him, just point blank, have you ever killed anyone before?
Wow. Heavy question. What does he say?
He just says no. But the narration implies. It feels like a calculated answer. Maybe not the whole truth, or maybe the truth is too complicated. Was it self-defense? Was it saving the woman? He feels she wouldn't understand.
And they even talk about dumping the bodies.
Yeah, this chillingly pragmatic thought surfaces. How easy it would be to just drop someone off in the vast desert where they'd likely never be found. It shows how quickly their reality has shifted, how desperate they are.
The story then shifts perspective for a bit, right? We see the police arrive.
We do. Deputies Watkins and Hamby turn up at room 100. They take in the scene, the splattered brain matter, Hank's body, the detail of a bullet hole in Hank's belly, suggesting maybe the woman shot him first, and crucially, the murder weapon is missing.
Which points to someone else being involved.
Exactly. They deduce a third party. And who's their main witness?
Junior, the charming manager.
Yep. And Junior gives his description. Highly biased, of course. Rainn is just some regular dude, but with a attitude problem. And he mentions the duct-taped boots. Moon gets described as wearing a dirty black sundress, looking sour as piss, a gothy type, and predictably, a whore.
It's stark, isn't it, how people are reduced to these crude labels by someone like him.
Absolutely. But amidst the bias, Junior provides the single most important piece of information for the police.
The car.
The car. He remembers the distinctive 1960 Plymouth Dart. That's the key. That unusual classic car is what allows them to put out an all-points bulletin. The cool car becomes their downfall.
So Rainn and Moon are on the run. Police are looking for the Dart. Where do they go next?
They make a stop in this ghost town, Cuervo, another symbol of decay, really. Sun-baked, abandoned buildings. And on one collapsing house, they see spray-painted names.
What names?
Casper, Balthazar, Melchior.
The Three Kings. The Magi.
Moon recognizes them immediately. She interprets it as a traditional blessing, names painted over a doorway for protection. And in that moment, surrounded by ruin, she finds this tiny spark of maybe hope, or at least a connection to something bigger. She even offers this impromptu prayer for both of them, acknowledging they are in a world of shit.
That's quite a moment for her. How does Rainn react?
Pure cynicism. He looks at the decaying house, the fading names, and just says, "Fuck all good it did them. Someone stole their door."
Ouch. No room for hope there. Just sees the failure, the vulnerability.
It's such a stark contrast. Her reaching for meaning, him seeing only evidence of decay and loss. It really shows the different places their trauma has left them.
Where do they end up after Cuervo?
Their final stop is a diner. Perfectly themed for the location. Guitars and Cadillacs. Very Route 66. And the music playing inside. It's significant.
What's playing?
First, Nancy Sinatra's Bang Bang, My Baby Shot Me Down.
Okay, yeah, on the nose.
And then Johnny Cash's Folsom Prison Blues. Both songs are just steeped in themes of violence, consequence, being trapped, regret. The soundtrack is basically foreshadowing the end.
And Rainn's state of mind in the diner.
He's a wreck, can't eat, totally consumed by anxiety about the police closing in, about having no money. He even has these fleeting, dark thoughts about needing to rob someone. He's spiraling.
And then the inevitable happens.
The inevitable happens. Uniformed police officers walk into the diner.
How does Moon react?
She panics instantly, sees them and knows. But for Rainn, the final nail clicks into place when he hears the police radio. The dispatch mentions a 1960 Plymouth Dart.
His car. They know.
He knows. The jig was up, as the text says. His unique car, the thing that maybe felt cool or distinctive before, has betrayed them, and he makes the choice right there.
He doesn't try to run with Moon?
No. He decides to face them, to confront the officers. Maybe it's a final act shaped by Heath's aggression. Maybe it's a warped sense of taking control. Maybe he thinks he's protecting Moon by drawing their attention. It's complex, but he acts.
And it ends violently.
Extremely. He draws the gun, Hank's gun, that he took from room 100. There's shouting, a flurry of shots exchanged in the diner. The officers react, defend themselves, and Rainn is hit.
The story describes his final moments, doesn't it?
It does, with this strange kind of quiet intensity. As he's dying on the diner floor, his thoughts drift. He thinks about his mother again. He hears the music still playing, bang, bang. Then there's this brief, dark thought about Moon. He thinks of her as the cutter.
The cutter? Why?
It's maybe his dying mind making a final, perhaps cruel connection. Linking the scratches he saw on her in the opening bathroom scene to her story about the metal pokey stick, maybe deciding in that instant that she inflicted those wounds, that she's fundamentally damaged or dangerous. It's ambiguous but unsettling.
And then?
And then, oddly, a sense of calm comes over him. His very last sensation is the taste of burnt coffee. Such a mundane, ordinary detail right at the moment of death. It juxtaposes the violence that led him there.
Wow. What a journey. So, pulling back from the story itself, what are the big takeaways from this deep dive into Route 66?
Well, I think first and foremost, it's a really powerful exploration of how inescapable past trauma can be. It's not something you just leave behind. It travels with you. It shapes your reactions, your choices, your relationships, often in destructive ways.
Yeah, you see that so clearly in both Rainn and Moon. They're searching for escape on the open road, that classic American symbol of freedom, but they can't outrun what's inside them.
Exactly. And the story really blurs that line between victim and perpetrator, doesn't it? Rainn starts as a victim of his father's abuse, but he ends up becoming a killer, however complicated the circumstances. Moon is scarred by violence, and her way of coping involves manipulation and keeping everyone at arm's length. Their survival mechanisms, born from pain, lead them down these incredibly dark passages.
It also feels very much about the weight of secrets, the stories we tell ourselves, the stories we tell others, the truths we hide, like Rainn carrying his mother's horrific secret.
And how those hidden narratives can define reality. The story leaves you feeling that maybe some questions like the absolute truth of what happened in room 100 or the full extent of Rainn's past, or even Moon's real story, maybe they're meant to remain unanswered. Maybe some ambiguity reflects reality better.
So this dive into Route 66 really shows how Chris Stone takes what looks like a straightforward road trip noir and packs it with psychological depth, darkness, and complexity.
Absolutely. You find these unexpected layers, the intricate inner lives simmering beneath the surface of these damaged characters, and this sense that their pasts were always going to catch up with them no matter how fast they drove.
It really makes you think about the stories we carry, doesn't it? The ones we tell, the ones we hide. How much do they dictate where we end up, even when we think we're the ones driving?
That's a powerful thought to leave with. How much are our destinations predetermined by the narratives we inhabit, consciously or unconsciously?
Something for you to definitely mull over. Thank you for joining us for this deep dive into Chris Stone's Route 66.
It was fascinating to explore.
Join us next week when we review the next story in the Dark Passages collection.